Welcome back to the case study Q&A series here at 3DMJ on fat loss and dieting. Today's question is from Jenna in Las Vegas. Her question is, more or less, that she was previously dieting on a more or less bro-ish approach, if you will, or cis approach in this case, where a very clean and dirty kind of approach with not so much focus on tracking calories or macronutrients. And to get very lean, she had to do a lot of cardio and had to restrict her foods a lot. Since she's adopted a IIFYM and If It Fits Your Macros approach, and she has been able to get leaner, and this is her first diet doing it. She's really enjoying the fact that she can eat what she wants and that she can satisfy her cravings. However, she's finding that she is getting hungrier than she ever has before, and she's not sure if it's just because she's leaner or if this is because maybe she's doing something wrong, and that all she can do is think about the food she craves, and she wants to eat even more of them than that fit her macros. So, great question, Jenna, and I think this is not that uncommon, that I've seen this occur in people who are new to tracking macronutrients and new to the freedom that it provides as far as what foods you can eat. Now, there's a lot of different talks about if it fits your macros and the way it should be applied, but I think it's really important to remember that the reason why if it fits your macros or tracking macronutrients is useful is because it helps us quantify our energy, and thus we can track in an objective way a method of modifying our diet when we plateau and seeing that we have appropriate levels of macronutrients to help us perform, maintain muscle mass, and maintain health. It is not just there so that we don't have to be as restricted. That's a nice benefit, but how restrictive your diet is goes beyond whether or not you're just tracking macronutrients or whether you're following a meal plan or hitting certain food lists up, right? So I think if you focus too much on the fact that if it fits your macros, it lets you fit in foods, your diet can very quickly become, what can I get away with while still hitting my macros? And that can lead down a road that you may be experiencing. This may be the reason why you're hungry. It also just might be that you're leaner. But considering you have been leaner in the past, it makes me think that this is probably due to maybe the iteration of if it fits your macros that you're using. You mentioned that you really enjoy satisfying your cravings, but in reality, there gets to be a point in a diet where satisfying your cravings is almost impossible. Because as you get leaner and as you have been restricted for longer, even if you're taking a more balanced approach with tracking macronutrients versus having a rigid food schedule, you're just going to get hungry and you're going to get more food focused. So let's think about some of the positives that came from the old approach, right? Many of the clean versus dirty foods that are out there and the traditional approaches that bodybuilders used were to focus on foods that were single item ingredients, low in calories, high in protein, and high in fiber, and often high in water content like fruits, vegetables, and were not too palatable. So if you were to imagine replacing a diet of, say, sweet potatoes, oats, lean cuts of steak, chicken breasts, lean cuts of fish, broccoli, asparagus, and let's say fruit with, frozen yogurt and the occasional bit of dark chocolate and all kinds of dieting foods that are flavor focused but still low in calories, and on your refeeds day, consuming a lot of foods that you feel you can get away with by fitting it into your macronutrient targets. There's a difference in terms of which one is more satiating, which one is a little more bland and doesn't make you hungrier and doesn't trigger your food signals. Because it's not, how much we eat is not just dependent on the calories we eat. The saying of cookies or potato chips, you can never have just one. You'd think if it was just a numbers game that as you ate each potato chip and as you had more calories, you'd get less hungry and eventually stop. But the reality is we eat the potato chips until the bag's gone. And that's because some foods actually make us hungrier as we eat them, or rather, instead of hungrier, they trigger our craving to have even more. So if you were to combine the fact that you're getting truly hungrier from being on lower calories and having lower levels of body fat and lower levels of glycogen from dieting with eating a bunch of foods that trigger cravings, that's a recipe for disaster on a diet. And it can make it, at best, very, very difficult to adhere to and painful while you go through it. And at worst, it might just end the diet because you're unable to stick to it. So it's a really good idea to take the best of both worlds. There's a time and place for satisfying a craving, and that probably is earlier in the diet when you haven't been pushing too hard, but not when you're lean. And there's nothing wrong with having some discretionary calories, fitting in some foods just so you feel like you're not too restricted. But for the most part, I would say probably 80% of your diet you want to come from those single item food ingredients that are high in fiber, high in water content. They don't need to taste bad, but I wouldn't be trying to fill your diet with the foods that you crave. That's just not going to be a good approach for sticking to what is inevitably going to be hard, a contest prep diet in the end. So think about If It Fits Your Macros as not a goal of helping you get away with something, but more of allowing you the freedom to have a slightly more balanced diet that looks a little bit more like your off season. If you think about it, if you were in the off season and trying to be a healthy, fitness conscious, person, and you didn't have restricted calories, it's not like you'd be trying to satisfy your cravings all the time. You'd probably be eating actually more healthier than when you diet. And that's kind of the irony that comes with some of the more mainstream If It Fits Your Macros posts, where you'll see people on Instagram basically eating whey protein, frozen yogurt, one piece of fruit, a little bit of vegetables, a multivitamin, and then Chipotle the rest of the day. And I think that's not really it's not a healthy diet. We have to think about micronutrients, not just macronutrients. We have to think about sustainability, and we have to think about creating a diet that doesn't drive us to eat even more. And because we don't want the only thing preventing us from overeating to be hitting these three numbers. Ideally, beyond just this diet where you're trying to get lean for the stage, you want to be able to have a sustainable and optimal diet in the off season as well, and long term. And if you do decide to one day walk away from the sport, to be able to transition to having a more normal life and more normal diet. So hopefully that helps. Thank you for your question, and good luck with the rest of your diet for getting on stage. I really hope this helps you, hit your numbers, make progress, and compete with a little less stress and a little less pain and a little less time thinking about food.